For our half double crochet hat, I'm using an I sized hook. You'll find the size for the hook right here in the handle. See that? And I'll be using a 4 worsted yarn. I picked a tweed color for my hat. And to begin, I chained 55. If you were going to do a larger size, you might want to chain more and measure against maybe your head or their head. So to start with our half double crochet hat, we're going to do our half double crochet in the 3rd chain from the hook because we're on the foundation row. Yarn over through all 3, and we're going to do that all the way across for our first row. And once we get to there, I'm going to throw in a bit more of a challenge so that we can make a brim for our hat. So go ahead and chain off 55 and then do your first half double crochet in the 3rd chain from the hook, and then go ahead and do your half double crochet all across. And we've reached the end in the final stitch for our foundation row. Now we're at the end of the row, so we're going to chain 2, and then we're going to turn. And so our first stitch is here. To give a brim texture to our hat, we're going to go ahead and crochet into the back loop only. So that goes straight into our back loop. And I want you to do that in all the stitches all the way across for an additional challenge. If you don't feel like you're ready for that or up for that, that's fine. You can continue on going through our default of both the front and the back loop. But to give our brim texture, go ahead and give a try to doing the next row in the back loop only. By going through the back loop only all the way across, I'll do my last stitch. You can see how we have a raised texture across that can make a very attractive brim. Now we'll do our chain 2 and turn. If we want to keep the texture on one side for the brim, we'll now need to switch over and begin doing our stitches in the front loop only for this row. And then when we get done with this row, we would switch back to the back loop only, and that's going to keep our raised texture on one side, giving us a wrong side or a right side. The most important thing, and you'll hear me say this over and over again, the most important thing in crochet is to be consistent. If you switch back and forth from the back loop only to the front loop only, just continue to do that consistently as well. Now we've completed a row of front loop only. And so for the next row, after we do our chain 2 and turn, Just chain 2 and turn. We will resume going into the back loop only. And this will be the last row that I modify. I'll do the last row in the front loop only, and then I will return to our default, which is through both the front and the back loop. So chain 2, and then we'll be going through the front loop only, and after this row go to the default of both the front and the back loop. So for this last row only, do the front loop only, all the way across. And this is the smoother side that would be near the head, and this is the more textured side that will be the brim. After 4 rows, I'm going to go ahead, do my chain 2 and turn, and now go to the default of both the front and the back loop, and I will do the remainder of the rows in our default stitch. I've completed 18 rows of the half double crochet, and in the second row I started with back loop only, third row front loop only, fourth row back loop only, and fifth row front loop only. And that gives us a slight raised texture. You may have chosen to do that as an extra challenge, or you may not have chosen to do that at this time. Either way, you'll be fine. We'll be able to finish our hat. Now, where the texture is slightly raised, we're going to call that the right side, or the side that will be showing. And so I am ready to finish off, and we will fold the right side under and close at the wrong side. I'm going to finish my piece. Don't be afraid to leave a long tail when you finish, because you can use that tail for the joining that we'll do to finish this project. So to finish the last stitch, I've cut the end of the tail, and so we can just pull that right on through. And then the beginning tail, after I fold it in half, is what I'm going to use to join the two sides. And I'm going to do this with a yarn needle. You could also slip stitch it, but for the finishing for this hat, I'm going to go ahead and do a yarn needle. I've threaded the yarn needle, and I'm just going to do a simple back and forth stitch evenly all the way up the side of our hat to close it. The important thing here is to be very even. You don't need to pull too tightly. We don't want this to gather. We want it to be a nice even seam for the side. After seaming up the side on the wrong side, if you pull back through to the right side and turn it inside out, you should have a nice even seam, and that's our side seam. Now to finish the top, I'm working on the wrong side still. To seam my hat, I'm going to use a yarn needle, and I'm going to fold this until we have approximately 4 equal portions. And now I'm going to use my yarn needle to capture each group of 4 in the inner circle, and that's going to be the very top seam of our hat. So now we have 4 equal sections. And I'll pull this tightly, because then I'll begin to seam along each of these 4 seams. And here it is perfectly fine. Go ahead and pull tight, because we want to gather it anyway as much as we possibly can. So go ahead and pull tight and do this along each one of these 4 seams. For this seam, you can go ahead also and use the tail and hide that piece of yarn. So go around and gather tightly on each of the seams all the way around. Now I'm going down my second section of the 4 seams, and remember, we can pull quite tightly because we want to gather. As you'll see when we're finished. And go around and continue to repeat this on each of the 4 sides. And then go ahead and reinforce in the middle and hide your seams. I'll go over that with you one more time in a moment. Pull tightly, and there's another seam. And so I'll continue and do this seam and pull tightly, and do this seam and pull tightly. To finish our beanie hat, we just need now to weave in our ends, and this is a good opportunity to use our tail ends to reinforce our seams even a bit more at the top and at the sides. So just go ahead and take your ends and weave it through, go back and forth. You can make it even more secure. And we're going to go ahead and pull tight, and with our scissors cut it closely, and that little tail end will disappear. And we'll do that with each and every one of our tails to give a nice finish. Now that we've woven in our ends and turned the hat right side out, you can see how our half double crochet beanie looks when it's finished.